KFAN.
Goessling, the Scribe, at Ben Goessling via Twitter. And he covers the Minnesota Vikings for the Star Tribune at StarTribune.com. Nice enough to join 9 to noon each and every Tuesday, or most Tuesdays, year-round to discuss Minnesota Vikings football and some things, ancillary things surrounding the world of football. And off that, we begin here. What did you pull from Friday at rookie camp? And good morning.
Good morning. Yeah, the rookie camp focus obviously was where you would expect it would be on J.J. McCarthy. So I spent most of my time kind of watching him. The interesting thing with him is you see it pretty much right away in terms of the arm talent and just the way he unloads the ball. Looks like a guy that is the 10th overall pick in the draft. I mean, there is a certain amount of arm talent. There's a certain amount of fluidity that just sticks out differently. I mean, Kirk Cousins had a strong arm. Kirk Cousins had a lot of things that he did really well, was accurate, could throw the deep ball, all of those things. But McCarthy just looks really, really, really fluid. And it's one of those things I think that, pops to scouts that make you a first-round pick as opposed to a day 2, day 3 pick, even if you have a successful career out of it. That sort of innate ability to move the way he does, that certainly stuck out. And you just see it pop when you're watching him. And I think that will obviously get harnessed and kind of refined as we go. But just on an immediate kind of first time seeing him throw the ball in person kind of thing, it's like, yeah, there's a lot of that there. Now, there's times where he throws at 1,000 miles an hour and needs to put a little more touch on the ball. That's a known issue, as they say, I think, in the tech world with him. But the arm talent is certainly there. You see it pretty much right away.
Did you happen to notice, right when media rolls in and they're assembling on the field,
yep.
They're scattered, and then said media heads over to the hill, the berm, where the exclusive Vikings radio network perch is. They were practicing on that field adjacent to the Mike Hughes Memorial Field. And as they started the practice and all you guys were over there, Kevin O'Connell had a common thread where he was next to J.J. McCarthy from the minute I walked out there to the minute everybody got over to the other side. And the last time I saw a head coach that concerned with feet, his name was Rex Ryan.
I always love that one.
I mean, he was all over my man's feet during that practice. Did you notice that?
Yeah, probably for different reasons than Rex Ryan. But yes, he certainly was.
Hey, you got to toe the water somewhere.
He certainly was trying to be in tune with all of the details of all of this stuff. And I think that's going to be a lot of kind of where he goes with it, and it's footwork, it's balance when you're throwing the ball. It's all of these different things that he wants to make sure are done exactly the way that they want them done in this offense. But it was him. It was a lot of Josh McCown kind of right there. There were kind of almost these mini lectures or mini conferences between just about every play where they're kind of talking him through things, and you could certainly do that to overkill, but I think a lot of it early was just, hey, let's get the immediate feedback. Let's get the immediate teaching in here and go from there. It's going to be a lot of that, I think, with him. And it's not just going to be those guys. It's going to be Wes Phillips. It's going to be Grant Udinski. There's sort of this tree of coaches that are going to be involved, I think, pretty often and have a lot of one-on-one time with him as we go through the next few months.
And JJ is so young. I mean, he's 4 years into his 21st year on Earth. So it's not like you're at minicamp or an OTA watching Derek Carr wear the Saints colors, or Drew Brees wear the Saints colors from the Chargers, or Dante Culpepper wearing the teal of the Miami. We're not watching a veteran who's done it against this level before. You're watching a 21-year-old who just turned 21. Yes. There's boyish charm. there's care, there's desire. I would guess right now, having not seen it at this level, there's born leader.
Yeah.
We know what we're looking for, and he's it that way.
He doesn't shy away from that.
No. We just have to wait for it.
Yeah.
But there are things for which we have to wait for sure. I mean, simply because of his age and the level and stuff like that. But as stated on Access Vikings, which you can find, it's a podcast. Andrew Kramer led the most recent one. It was last week. Ben Goessling was the guest. On Access, it was stated on Access Vikings, speaking of McCarthy, why don't you expect Darnold and McCarthy to be an off-season horse race to the wire?
Because I don't think that their approach to the job is based on, is he better than Sam Darnold, if that makes sense. I think the threshold they are looking at is he ready to take the job and run with it and do all of the things that we want to see done by an elite quarterback in this offense? And if it's not there yet, or if it's not there consistently enough yet, let's wait. I think it's much more about that than this year, which can be a fine line to walk because they still want to win games. They're still in year 3 together, Kevin O'Connell and Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah, and it certainly helps them to win enough games to make the case to stay around. But I think when you draft a quarterback like they did,
make the case to stay around. What's that mean?
Well, just in terms of, at some point. Well, I don't think anybody's going anywhere. Aggregators.
Yeah.
Just to be clear on that, nobody's going anywhere. But
they could go 4-13, and if it lacks insubordination, O'Connell ain't going anywhere.
No, I don't think he is. But I think there's always that thing of if it's 2 or 3 years of not winning, then you start to wonder. I don't think we're in any place anywhere near that. But I do think the approach with the job for the quarterback at this point is let's make sure that he's ready for the long term. And they've talked with ownership about all of this. They've had this conversation about where they think they're going to go, their plan for developing a rookie quarterback, what the timetable is going to be. I don't think there's any dissonance on this whatsoever. But a lot of that does, I think, mean that if he's not ready right away, you have to be able to resist that temptation to say, I know we said we're going to do this, but let's go, switch up the plan because we want to win games right now. I think you have to have buy-in on all of that. And I think there is. So that leads then to say, let's make sure that this guy is completely ready in every way that we define that term. And then we could put him out there at that point.
And all of this is off the podcast Access Vikings.
Yeah.
And I listen to it most times, but I may have missed some around the draft, but I caught up with this one. Andrew Kramer, a cohort, a teammate of Ben's at Star Tribune, at StarTribune.com, was on lead vocals. Ben was the guest. And this is all off a chat Andrew and Ben had about the what's next plan for McCarthy and truly what goes into starting him as a 21-year-old rookie. So just to land the plane here, correct me if I'm wrong, but you do not envision McCarthy starting early in the season.
Yes, that's correct. I think that's where we're headed, unless the only way I would change that is if he's so good that you can't hold him back any farther. And I think you've heard Kevin O'Connell talk about this a little bit, or I've talked to people that have had this discussion, that he is going to have to be the one almost holding everybody back from saying, let's put him on the field. I think they want to encounter that problem where he's so good that everybody say, why not, why not, why not? And O'Connell is saying, because we still have a little more that we need to get done. We still have a little more that we want to see before we put him out there. But that would be a good problem for them to have if he is the one kind of saying, everybody hang on. We're almost there, but we're not quite there yet. If he clears a threshold where everybody, including Kevin O'Connell, says, there's no more need to wait. And if that shows up in August, then maybe he goes. But I think other than that, it's going to be, let's kind of stay the course here as much as possible. And a lot of that is going to be when Kevin O'Connell says, yeah, I'm ready to turn this thing over and we're ready to roll.
What is the level of expectation for Darnold to be ready? Again, like the learning curve and what's expected of him to step in. And that's almost regardless of whatever trek that JJ's on. if it's not J.J. McCarthy, and I think all of us would agree, and I'm with you in terms of Darnold starting and J.J. maybe, we're talking months down there, maybe the whole season. Who knows? But with Darnold and the playbook and everything, what do you think the expectation is? What is the development process, even for a 26-year-old veteran in Darnold, to grasp this offense and hopefully, as of week one, be ready to be the general out there?
Well, good morning.
And good morning, yes.
I think the thing that will help Darnold in that regard is the fact that he spent last year in the 49ers playbook. That gives you a baseline where a lot of the concepts are similar. A lot of the approach offensively is similar. It's not exactly the same, certainly. There's differences, there's different flavors between Sean McVay and Kyle Shanahan and Kevin O'Connell and Matt LaFleur and Mike McDaniel and so on and so forth. But a lot of the base foundation of the offense has some shared concepts to it. So Sam Darnold, I think, will have a little easier time. He's not coming in completely from like, I've never played in a system like this before. So I do think that helps him in that regard in terms of getting up to speed, having the offense down, learning it in time to be a functional starter at the beginning of the season. There's a lot that he still needs to do better, certainly. I mean, they feel like there is room for him to grow based on the fact that he has not been in a lot of what they would consider healthy developmental situations in the past. I mean, you've had a lot of, whether it's coaching changes, coordinator changes, offensive line issues, wide receivers around him. In short, the things that the Vikings have that made them what J.J. McCarthy called the envy of the draft process with all these quarterbacks, Sam Darnold has played in a lot of places that did not have those things. And they feel like last year he got a little more of that seasoning in San Francisco, and they're hoping some of that carries over. So the hope is it makes him good enough to start and kind of carry things through the first part of the season at least, and we'll see where it goes from there.
And that makes a lot of sense. I mean, what you would say, specifically given your proclivity to have to see things or feel things or touch things, in very science-first like fashion, not taking a by-faith approach to somebody who has not been with a team or been in a system. I mean, like it's you need a big bang game to get over the hump and say somebody belongs, right?
Well, I want to see some level of evidential proof.
Understood.
I think when you're going about it this way,
understood.
I think it's an important part of it.
Ben Goessling, Star Tribune, StarTribune.com. Do you think Rouse or Juergens can win a starting spot at guard? And Rouse may not even be considered at guard, but I'm just throwing his name out there because I'm about ready to land the plane on the rookie camp vibe.
I think it is Blake Brandel's job, at least at this point. I don't think it's his locked up, but I think he's going to get the first crack at it.
I might be talking about the other spot.
Oh, that one. That is interesting as well, because I do think there's going to be a lot of competition just because Ed Ingram has been, he was better in year 2 than he was in year 1, but I think there's still a lot for him to prove going forward. So, that's between those rookies and Dan Feeney. There's certainly going to be a lot of
Is Dan a candidate to win a job? He's a candidate, but
I think everybody's a candidate, I suppose, but it's going to be interesting to see how they put that whole group together.
Dan Feeney, I'm pretty sure he was one of those O linemen of the day.
The Pat Elflein bit where you had him on top?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Little package with him.
Beautiful.
I think there was somebody in Seattle, some LSU cat. Oh, yeah.
Ethan Posick.
Ethan Posick.
Well, Posick was huge in offensive lineman of the day.
Lineman of the day, killing segments.
Having a great time talking football.
Have you seen a picture of Dan Feeney?
Mm-mm.
Like, Dan Feeney looks like he was designed in a lab to be an offensive lineman.
He's either an O lineman or he drives truck.
Well,
yes, or like a pro wrestler.
Does he have a mullet?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Like a good one.
And a sweet mustache.
It's like curly. Okay. Oh, man. It's
now, good mullet. Well, that's an oxymoron.
Yeah.
However,
but he's committed to the bit. Let's put it that way.
This is now, I'm going to skew old school here. Dwayne Shinsis.
Yeah.
Do you remember Dwayne Shinsis?
Yeah.
You remember that mullet?
Yeah.
Okay, like Oklahoma State? No, that was Brian Big Country Reeves. No, Shinsis was Florida. So Shintz's, his mullet was epic as pro sports players would go. Meanwhile, you did Fandini and Rouse and Juergens and Brandel and Ed Ingram and Dalton Reisner's out there looking at all those names.
Yeah, he is.
And we ain't trying to make him sound like a cross between Marshall Yanda, Randall McDaniel, and Steve Hutchinson.
Be a good guard.
I just wonder what the heck he thinks about all this.
Yeah, yeah. I think he's out there wondering, and it's not hard to wonder what he thinks because he's tweeting a lot of what he thinks. But
of late, he has.
Yeah. Or at least in the offseason, he has been. Kind of saying, hey, some of the stuff we saw last year too of just wanting to be back here. And wanting a job and all of those kinds of things. I think
everybody has a price point. Is his agent.
Yeah. Yeah, and everybody has a price point. Yeah. I think that's a lot of what's going on there.
Right.
I think if that price point gets to the place where the Vikings envision it being, I could see it happening at some point. That's what happened last year, obviously, but I don't think we're there yet.
Well, I agree, and I don't have any intel. I just agree because your instincts and your discernment, and you're next to the team covering it for the Star Tribune. But what is astounding would be too strong. What is puzzling to me with this is the metrics, the Pro Football Focus group, or the eye test group, or the sneaky inside coach conversations in Indianapolis. When you put all that together, it all adds up that Dalton Reisner is well above average as a pass protector.
Sure.
And when you go to, let's say, power run, vertical pass, road grading, that may not be his fort or forte, but we'll call it fort.
Yep.
Well, this team throws 61, 70% of the time. O'Connell would throw 90% of the time if they let him.
Yeah.
And that's what Reisner does.
Yeah.
I can't figure, it has to be price point.
I think that's exactly it. My sense of it from a few conversations is this price point because they do have other things to pay for, and I think there's probably a little bit of we value this position at this level, and that's not quite where he has been. I think that's a lot of what has kept him from signing another contract here.
There are quite a bit of schedule release, little sneaky breaks happening over the last couple of days. Like first Monday Night Football game, according to the ESPN crawl, maybe you've seen this, is going to be Juicy A-Raj at San Francisco.
Oh, my.
And he's a San Mateo native, I believe. No, that's Tom Brady. Rogers is from Northern California.
He was, and he famously wanted to be drafted by the 49ers because it was the clip of how sad are you or how upset you are. How upset are you about not being drafted by the 49ers on draft night? And he responded with the, not as upset as they are that they didn't draft me. Kind of, the typical. It was like proto A-Raj.
Yeah.
Like before we got all of the kind of deadpan little smirky things.
Yeah.
But you could see it was there.
So schedule release tomorrow. And again, this is I'm pilfering, excuse me. I'm picking stuff from researching Access Vikings, Star Tribune, StarTribune.com. Don't forget about the app. Andrew Kramer and lead vocals. Ben was his guest. Despite not knowing how it lays out, why do you expect the Vikings to get off to a slow start?
Well, I think if they were to get off to a slow start, it's because you just have a lot of new pieces in new places. Certainly quarterback is the big part of it. No TJ Hawkinson, I would think. Week one, it would seem hard for me to imagine him coming off of PUP to be ready for the start of the season.
Don't doubt the Chilean.
Yeah, that's
what's his name?
Samus Reyes. Yeah, that's an interesting. He's got a fascinating story.
And don't doubt Johnny Munn.
Yep, there you go.
Loves him.
Yep, he does. That's true. New quarterback and the corner thing is still like a big question I have.
Yeah, like a pickle at the nickel.
Yeah, yeah.
Why are you smiling so much?
Because you're in a mood today.
I'm not in a mood today. The Rex Ryan foot joke worked for a second consecutive day, and that's like the crowd liking the songs.
Yeah, there you go. Play the hits.
So we're playing the hits right now with Ben Goessling. Nordo's the producer. And when we return, I'm going to lay it out for the Scribe like this. Do you think Kwesi devalues some draft picks unlike other general managers? And I'll explain what that means, and we'll get into it with the learned Scribe. But first,
The Fan and BigDeck.com want to give you a chance to put $1,000 in your hand with the National Cash Contest. So go to KFAN.com, enter the keyword win, and you might win $1,000. Go Go to KFAN.com, use the keyword win. You just heard that liner, and just a reminder right here on your home for the Howell Loving Game 5, and giddy up, it's a late one. Tip-off after 9:30 p.m. Let's call it 9:40 just to be safe. You'll get the official pregame from Target Center. Well, not from Target Center, excuse me, from Denver at 9 p.m. But our own Max Fuller, it's the pregame party, howling with the homies. That kicks off at 8. So starting in earnest at 8 p.m. all the way through, hopefully a Game 5 victory for the Wolves. You're going to hear all that coverage nonstop with the at 8 p.m. right here on your home for Timberwolves basketball, The Fan.
All right. Let me hit you with this for our final segment, and thank you for joining. Ben Goessling, the Scribe. Now, when I ask, do you think Kwesi Adofo-Mensah devalues some draft picks unlike other general managers? Unpacking it from the baseline via Ascension is, would you agree that the hire of Kwesi Adofo-Mensah is one of the more, if not the most, out-of-the-box, antithetical to what people know general manager hires in the history of the NFL?
Yes, I would.
So therefore, there will be tentacles that come from something outside of the box.
Right.
Like first year, this with all due respect, well, with these margin rules and how we layer things, I'm going to outthink everybody and go ahead, Lions, you can have this one, and Packers, you can have this, and we're going to amass picks, and we're going to, we're going to murder by numbers 1, 2, 3, copyright Sting. So now as we move on, what I feel is telling this year, now that they finally have some money to spend, is they didn't get free agent or free agents. They got free agents. And the list just went on and on.
Yeah, it's long.
Okay, and the draft picks, which were minimal at first into the draft, became more minuscule after the trades.
Right.
So I started thinking a little bit here for the Scribe. Kwesi is a science guy, okay, and that's just like an umbrella type term.
Yeah,
he's a science guy. Past performances of those playing at this level may mean exponentially more than, say, day 2 or 3 picks in the draft, all right? So perhaps he views rookies as much more, certainly of unknown commodities for somebody who's dealt in commodities. And more of a dice roll than what may be more concrete, as in those who have played snaps at this level. And that would lead to a devaluing of what everybody has felt is the lifeblood of teams, which it is. J.J. McCarthy, for better or for worse, will be lifeblood to this team. So will Dallas Turner. Jordan Addison is. But then when you get back to certain parts of Friday and Saturday, it's more of a dice roll for even the greatest general managers ever. So I'm just getting the feeling that my man's so smart that it's like, you know what? More of a dice roll here, more of a craps game here. And I ain't betting the come on these players anymore. I'd rather save and spend here. What do you think? Yeah,
I think there's something to that. I mean, I think that certainly the emphasis for him in the draft is top 100 picks. Much more so. I mean, the Rick Spielman approach was let's get as many as we can because a lot of these, there's uncertainty to it, which I think Rick Spielman acknowledges that. I think Kwesi acknowledges that. I think it looks different in terms of how they respond to it. Spielman, it was let's get as many of these as we can because if we kind of take the buy in bulk approach, we're going to hit on a few of these over time. I think Kwesi, it's a little more of no. Let's concentrate on the ones that we can get that are a little higher return, that history shows are a little higher return because they're higher up in the draft. And with proven players, I think there is less projection to do there. And he talked a lot during the draft about how much of this is projection, how much of it is trying to solve for an unknown as best you can and saying how much success is this player going to have if we put him in this scheme. It's easier to do that probably with players that have proven it. And I think the thing that it reminds me of a little bit as you bring it up, Billy Beane in baseball, a lot of it was let's take college players. Let's not take high school players, which was a different approach to the draft because scouts are saying, okay, 18-year-olds, look at all of these things that we can project, look at all the development that can happen. Billy Beane was saying, no, I want college players because they faced better pitching. They've done it longer. There's more reliability in what they've done in the past than there is in high school players. So it's kind of to that extent, if that is how he's thinking about it with the free agents, saying, I've seen them already do this at this level. There is some level of provable success or provable output more so than there would be with a college player. Yeah. So I think that may drive some of it.
And I think it's just something to think about as we move forward in drafts with the Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah regime.
Yep.
I'm not casting an affront here.
Sure.
It flies in the face of how it's been done, but the last person in that facility to whom you want to say, well, that's how we've always done it. That's the wrong person to say that.
Because it means that you haven't thought about the plan.
Correct. 6:30 tonight, ESPN2. Caitlin Clark at Connecticut to start the WNBA regular season. Will you take a peek? Because if only for some of it, I'm absolutely in tonight.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to watch how that translates to the WNBA. Yeah, I mean, it's just obviously when she dominated the way that she did in college, how quickly does that project to what she does in the WNBA when a higher level of competition? Yeah. It certainly was going to be interesting to see.
She's fun to watch.
Yeah, she certainly is. Caught a lot of the Big Ten women's tournament when it was here. We went to the semifinal day and saw her throw a pass, kind of, I think, through her legs into the lane to a backdoor cutter. And it was like, okay, that was fun to watch.
Yeah.
So
like what the Nuggets did to us with Aaron Gordon, like 9 times over 2 games. Well, you know who else is fun to watch? Aaron Judge and Juan Soto. And they're in town tonight, too. So the option to go watch the Yankees and the Twins is right in front of me and all of us. But they're secondary, with all due respect, they're secondary in the conversation to me because I'm in the Comcast covenant.
Yeah.
And I can't watch.
Yeah.
And I don't even reach for the remote anymore and go like, hey, I just saw on my phone Spine Tingler and we got a bullpen change, so I got time to get over there and watch in the sinkhole. I don't even think that anymore because it's an impossibility in the Comcast covenant.
Yeah, and it's the out of sight, out of mind thing is really dangerous.
Great point.
If we need any proof of that, we should look at the league that has gone the opposite way of that. The NFL very much wants to be in your sight and in your mind all of the time.
Yeah.
And they want those of us who cover it to be working all of the time.
Yeah.
Hence the fact that the schedule release tomorrow evening will be a big event in the middle of all of the other things we were talking about because they create all of these things into big spectacles. Mm-hmm. So they have found a way to be in front of everybody at all times.
Yep.
And I think in this sort of fragmented world we live in, that's helped them a lot. Baseball, if it's getting to this point, which it is in a lot of cities, it's here, and this has happened a lot with these RSNs as they've kind of crumbled and all of the cord cutting has had an effect on it. The more people learn to kind of live without it, it's not good for the overall thing.
Great point. All right, time for 2 more, maybe 2.5. Now, the last reference here for the Access Vikings podcast, Star Tribune, StarTribune.com, Andrew Kramer, lead vocals. Next to him, or at least via Zoom, was Ben Goessling as the guest. Now, with that podcast, here's what happened with Donovan McNabb in 2011. Because when you guys were talking about what could lead to McCarthy, and then it's like you talked about Teddy and New Orleans and Castle and the Broken Ankle. I have all your albums, so you don't have to look quizzically at me. But then you guys went back to McNabb and Ponder. And you weren't on the beat.
Right.
And
I was guessing a little bit.
Kramer might have been in middle school.
Yeah.
So
it's possible.
Therefore, just having to be quick twitch, I understand.
Yeah.
When I was listening to it, it's one of those where I wanted to leave a talk back or a 64686 text. Here's what happened with McNabb in 2011. Bill Musgrave was the offensive coordinator.
Yep.
And Leslie Frazier's offensive coordinator for the first year you started, 2012,
2012 was my first year, yes.
All right. AP MVP. Musgrave, in my estimation, I never really felt he was thrilled to have McNabb for the final partial season of his career.
Yeah.
All right. But, I can't say he was super overjoyed to start Christian Ponder week 1 also.
Right.
So the team was at Chicago on Monday Night Football.
Yeah.
And you guys reference this as his final game, and he did take 5 sacks. Well, he took a safety right in front of halftime.
Okay.
Where he basically just quit on the play.
Yeah.
All right. I mean, it's here comes Urlacher, untouched, or maybe he got around somebody quickly. There are a lot of things to do. Dive forward, try to move.
Scramble, throw it away.
He took a knee. I think he took a knee for a safety.
Yeah.
And it was almost like as he jogged to the sideline, it wasn't like looking at offensive line, arms outstretched, or who did, what? No, he just went over and that's business.
It's like a wrestler leaving his shoes on the mat. Like, right. I'm done.
Beautiful. Yeah. And so he basically just quit on the play, did nothing to avoid it during a game where they would lose 39-10. And that was the very last play of his career.
Man.
So that's, in fact, they kept him for like a month and a half and made him inactive.
Yeah.
DNP guy.
Yeah.
Or certainly DNP, or he didn't play.
DNP CD, as it always used to be called.
There you go. And coach's decision. So that was the end of the McNabb run, and that's when Christian came in, just to land the plane on that. Because I remembered it vividly when you guys were talking about it. Now, finally, with schedule release tomorrow, primetime games, like Sundays, Mondays, Thursdays, holidays, Saturdays, whatever. Over-under on primetime games for the Vikings. If I lay it at 3.5, which way do you go?
I think I'm going to go over.
Over on the 3.5, despite the 4-13 prediction you made earlier.
Yeah. Simply because I think Kirk is one of them. I think there's always a Packers game. There'll be a Bears game, probably, because there always is. And then, I don't know if they'll say, hey, late in the season in case it's Caleb versus McCarthy or something like that.
But which games are standalone worthy? And you say Atlanta here, Kirk, I agree. One of the Green Bay games, I agree. Jets here with A-Raj.
That, I think, could be, because it's New York. It's A-Raj back at U.S. Bank Stadium, if that is, in fact, the game that's here and it doesn't get moved.
What about
London.
O'Connell at the Rams?
I could see that. It'll be a late start anyway, because it's a West Coast game.
Right.
Seattle is the other one I wonder about, because they always seem to put that game on Monday night.
Yeah. But remember, just because that's how we've always done it.
Doesn't mean we have to.
Doesn't mean we have to do it that way, Ben. 49ers here. Darnold versus his former team, and maybe Dobbs versus his former team.
There we go. Oh, gosh.
How about that one for prime time?
I could see it. I mean, it was there last year, too.
Yeah.
So I guess I think 4 is probably the number. So over 3.5.
You, my friend, are the best, and we will see you when we see you.
Sounds good.
Take a little break from the bit for a while so you can come up for air and get ready for minicamp and our second phase of OTAs and all that. And we just greatly appreciate everything you do for the radio show. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ben Goessling at Ben Goessling via Twitter, and I'm Paul Allen. News du Nord is next.
Back to 9 to noon, and it is News du Nord, brought to you by The Casino at Canterbury Park. Poker, blackjack, and table games all year round. And it's the perfect spot. Maybe you go out to Canterbury starting this weekend because live racing is kicking off for the season. And maybe in between races, waiting for your tickets to get paid off, maybe you go in and feel the felt and have some sips at Chips. CanterburyPark.com for all event details. We'll start with the Minnesota Twins. A bit of conversation between UPA and Ben Goessling last segment. But the Yankees are in town. The Minnesota Twins, 17 of their last 20 on the win column. Digging that. They're 24-16. The 27-15 Yankees are in town. They are tied atop the AL East standings. I believe with Baltimore, the Twins are a game back from the Cleveland Guardians. But it's Chris Paddock on the mound tonight. First pitch, 6:40. And it's on TBS. I think people are going to be able to watch the Twins and Yanks tonight.
Good luck with that.
Good luck. So
I'm saying it's not.
Oh, you don't think it's on TBS?
No, it's on TBS. I saw that too. But I'm just saying that in local markets.
Oh, it'll be blacked out or something?
Yeah, I mean, like if I got $100 in my pocket, I bet 93 of it that you won't be able to get it. They don't care about the Comcast covenant.
All right.
They don't care about Bally's. And by the way, more gradually day by day are caring less about Bally's. So I really, really, really hope this sucker gets fixed fast.
I'm with you on that. Minnesota Timber. So hopefully, though, the Twins continue their winning ways. Nice test of metal, though, in town with the pinstripes.
I forgot to bring this up yesterday. One of the, what I find to be humorous, underrated, quirky stories that I can remember in sports, but specifically baseball, is continuing to happen. And it's Kevin Gausman.
Yeah.
Pitcher for the Toronto Blue Jays. Okay, now I'm not going to go all full through the story, but
like tipping bit?
Right, playoffs last year, I'm cleaning my car, cleaning the garage, and I pull up the Toronto Blue Jays broadcast on my phone. And I'm listening to Buck Martinez or somebody go deeply down the road on, I'm telling you, this was a thing last year, and they talked about it early in the year, that the Twins, he's tipping pitches to the Twins. Okay, so I couldn't wait to share it the next day. And he got killed. And okay, so now, it's we'll see what happens tomorrow in the legislature, but those of my variety think about things like this. And so now, I put that in my metaphorical back pocket, and we're going to go ahead and wait till the 2024 early in the season, because if he's tipping pitches to the Twins, others are going to pick up on it. Well, his first 2 or 3 starts, he got absolutely murdered this year. I mean, I ain't talking about losing games. I'm talking about a game with 9 earned runs allowed. So it's a thing, as the kids would say. But Gausman also is highly skilled. So he gets a chance to fix what they know that we know that you know that we know. He gets a chance to fix it too. And he did. His 3, 4, or 5 starts up to the Twins game after getting blasted his first 2 or 3 of the year. He was lights out. He was fantastic. Game after game after game. So then he runs into the Twins this weekend. Might have been yanked in the second inning. I don't know when he got yanked, but they were getting around on him like they were all Babe Ruth and a combination of Roger Maris, Joe DiMaggio, Hank Aaron, and Babe Ruth. And he gave up 1 million runs. It's one of the coolest, quirkiest, under-the-radar stories that maybe I'm the only one that cares about it, but the pitch tipping bit, Gausman and the Twins, is not stopping. And if he hadn't gone lights out in games before that, I wouldn't even think twice about it. But he had. And his earned run average had gone down 3.5 points from like 7 something to like 3 or something, 4 or something. And the Twins killed him again. It's unbelievable what they're doing to that man.
Picture not having to drive 90 minutes to put a wager on that opinion. We shall see maybe later this week. I think Wednesday, you're right, that there will be some voting done on sports betting in the state of Minnesota. To the Minnesota Timberwolves, we'll see how those that are betting this thing's over. 2 for our guys in Denver, 2 for their guys in Minneapolis. It's back to Denver. I got a couple of audio clips I wanted to play for you. First, here's Mike Conley on confidence.
I don't want to lose 3 in a row, obviously. When we don't play our best, we hit some adversity. That next game or 2, we find a way to get back on track, whatever that entails. Hopefully that will be Game 5 in Denver. But like I said, we're confident. We're going to keep moving forward. We're going to try to find a way to adjust and be ready to go in Denver.
Speaking of confidence, here's Naz Reid on the idea of moving forward.
We're all extremely confident. Nobody has long faces. Nobody's upset. Nobody's worried or anything like that. I mean, everybody knows that, we can go out there and compete at the highest level with anybody. So, I mean, like I said, we haven't lost 3 games in a row. I think our mindset is just fine.
So that's on the Wolves side of things. Again, 8 p.m. Max handles the pregame party from 8 to 9. Howlin' with the homies. Official pregame from Denver starts at 9. Tip-off right around 9:40. And, it's going to be a late one tonight. Now, you have this evening at 7. Why it's such a late tip? Couldn't start that at 6, could you? Because it's at Madison Square Garden and the Knicks are playing. They're hosting the Indiana Pacers, That series is 2-2. Last night, you had a couple of games going on as well. You had Boston inch their way past the Cavs. I think they're up 3-1 now. And then OKC tied it up 2-2 with a second half comeback to beat the Mavericks 100-96 in Dallas. So game 5 goes back to OKC tied up 2-2 as well. So hoops all around, tight series all around. If Mr. Silver's whole game plan was to get long series all around, it appears as though he's getting what he wished for. But tonight, it'll be Ed Malloy, Bill Kennedy, And your crew chief, John Goble. Those are the referees handling Nuggets and Wolves this evening.
I've never heard of John Goble. He's the crew chief?
He's the crew chief.
Well, I mean, Ed Malloy, I've heard of him for years. Bill Kennedy, I know him. Mark Davis, who we've had before. Tony Brothers. I mean, their names, Scott Foster, with whom I and we are familiar. John, how do I not know who this guy is?
I don't know. John Goble, his brother is also, younger brother, is in his 8th season as an NBA staff official. Well, this is from the website. John Goble, get to know him. His favorite movie, The Godfather.
Wow.
His favorite musician.
Are you kidding me?
He enjoys hip-hop, salsa, and reggae. Yeah, maybe with The Godfather, he'll be putting horse heads in Jokic's bed tonight. His favorite meal, skirt steak, black beans and rice, fried plantains. Would love to visit Australia, and he's his hidden talent. He's a Cuban coffee barista, PA. So get to know.
Oh, I'm looking at his picture now.
John
I recognize him.
Yeah, when I see their faces, I recognize them. But you just say John Goble, I have no idea. So. That's your refereeing group. No Mark Davis, but also for those that don't like Scott Fosters of the world, don't like Tony Brothers, in complaints from Game 3 and Game 4, you get a whole fresh look tonight on the hardwood for the Howl at 9:40. That's the tip time I'm calling right now. 9:40 p.m.
Okay,
Central Time.
Looking forward to it, and wondering if there are any talkbacks or any suggestions to keep somebody awake for this game without mashing on massive amounts of coffee and dehydrating myself and then having an equilibrium problem where I'm off balance.
Well, I saw somebody, they either texted in or a talkback. I didn't save it. They said that your affinity for Jell-O, specifically Mexican Jell-O, that you might need to ration that tonight.
Yep.
Don't go too heavy too early.
Yep.
You might crash later stages of the third quarter.
Yeah. No, we put on 12 on the winter, and we've lost 8 of it, and we absolutely plan to lose the final 4 within the next week and change. So there will be no Jell-O. There will be no candy. There will be no cakes or pies.
Did you weigh yourself after that barbecue feast yesterday? Are you sure you're still down 8?
No, I did not have any.
Wow.
I'm not one who believes, at least from a Christian standpoint, people should identify their own gifts. However, the gift of being able to serve people, it was more important for me that the grooms and those who live on the backside got to take leftovers back to their dorms.
Yeah.
And I also lost track of time. So when I went over looking for some food, it was all gone. So
you were happy to serve, but ultimately you were definitely going to feast, but it was all gone.
Yeah, that's one way to put it. So I'm fasting to a certain extent right now. I guess I intermittently fast, and I didn't even know I did. Okay, with like the way I eat. I don't eat before the radio show. I'll eat a little bit before Vikings games, middle of the day before race calls. I'll eat a little in the middle of the afternoon, nothing before that. That led to the legend of the $23 Taco Bell purchases after a night racing at Canterbury. So I guess the way I eat, given my jobs are all, to a certain extent, predicated by adrenaline and energy and pushing on, and no matter if your life sucks or if it's good, it's you still got to put certain things out there to win for X amount of years, I mean decades. So therefore, I've tricked myself mentally into eating certain times of the day. So I guess I'm an intermittent faster. And so
unintentional.
Unintentional, intermittent faster. And so it's very easy for me to lose weight.
I wonder how much a $23 fast food order from 10 years ago, how much that would cost today.
It's about 27 and change because I did it 3 weeks ago.
And you need a Jared Goff contract or an Antoine Winfield Jr. contract these days to eat the way that you do, unintentionally, intermittently.
Yeah, wonder what Cuz Buzz thinks of that deal. Because Cuz Buzz and Goff and Stafford are all the same guys for different reasons.
A little bit, yeah.
And it's they're just whether people deem them underrated or like Kirk, primetime. Goff doesn't move, doesn't talk. Stafford, what's going on, Parker? Blah blah blah. And then Jared gets 170 promised, and Buzz gets 100 promised.
Yeah.
Wonder what Cuz Buzz thinks of that.
That's a great question. Although I think if you're Cousins, you have to be happy with what you got from Atlanta in the end. And you have to also be realistic off the Achilles. You have to be realistic from an age standpoint and all of those things. Cousins doesn't strike well. Actually, I think Cousins wants a fair dollar. So actually, I would say that Cousins probably would look over the fence and certainly be paying attention to how some of these other contracts shape up. Although I think Cousins cut open a vein and be honest about it. I think he feels like he's probably gotten his share thus far in his NFL career.
But it does matter to him.
I think it does.
I mean, I would say I know it does, but I can't exactly explain. I have some reasons I believe why, but like I've never heard anything from him or his dad or anything as to why it always has to be at a certain level.
Yeah.
But I do believe it matters.
And finally, Antoine Winfield Jr., I mentioned that, 4-84, $45 million guaranteed for the former Gopher.
Yeah.
It turned into a Rick Spielman's a complete moron going back in time and not picking Antoine Winfield in the 2020 draft.
Who'd we take?
Jeff Gladney.
Oh, got it.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's right. He and Antoine went in the second round, right?
He went, it was like 13 picks later or something. And did we identify that we needed a corner in that spot in
who
that
were the
draft?
Safeties? Smith and who?
It was Smith and Anthony Harris. And it would have been off the 2019. I think Anthony Harris had a pretty good season 2019. So do you play the need game or just best possible athlete?
Wow.
In the end...
and he's local, Antoine Wynn. I mean,
and he's got the dad cred.
Yeah, that sounds
unbelievable,
quite honestly.
I mean, frankly.
That's news
all
due north.
Signs pointed to Antoine Winfield Jr. being a Viking.
Here comes Parker Fox, plays for the Golden Gophers basketball team. He's an elite basketball mind and an emerging radio star. He's going to discuss Timberwolves and Nuggets. Tonight, Game 5 at the Mile Get High City, 9:30 on KFAN. And we'll be back to do all that after this.